I call Reno Cherokee, Tanakwe.
Kia ora, Mr Speaker. I'm pleased to make the penultimate contribution in this third reading of the Animal Welfare Amendment Bill, sir. And even though I'm not a member of the Primary Production Committee, it is a very, very important piece of legislation that we are debating in the House today, sir. And it further enhances our reputation as a quality food-producing nation, exporter to markets around the world. So it is a very important piece of legislation. Sir, we've heard contributions on how us as Kiwis feel very deeply around animal welfare, and that is true, sir. We've heard how 2/3 of households have family pets or have pets. And we've heard how our export industries are largely underpinned by our food production and our food product exports. And I need not go into detail how important that is in terms of our way of life and our standard of living here, that we do have strong primary industries. So we are fair-minded as Kiwis. We do like to see our animals treated well. We are horrified when we see examples of abuse conducted on animals, whether that be on farm or in other situations. So all of those matters are sought to be addressed through this bill, sir, and we are supporting this bill based on that underlying principle and policy. But, sir, yet again, we've heard numerous contributions from the government side of the House talking about the importance of animal welfare in terms of the primary industries, and yet again, they have failed to even mention the importance of the seafood industry to our country, sir. And can I repeat, the seafood industry is very important. It's a $1.5 billion export industry, and it's very important in terms of the communities that it services, and I think of my own electorate, communities such as Bluff or Kaikoura, or even over in the Chatham Islands. It's a very important industry. And animal welfare, the application of this bill, is equally important to the seafood industry. And can I give an example, sir, of the #1 export product in the seafood industry, which is now live lobster. And, sir, live lobsters, the very fact that a lobster that is potted here in the waters of Aotearoa, the very fact that that fish has to go live to a tank or a restaurant, principally in North Asia, the mere fact that that is the incentive enough for the industry to ensure that the animals are absolutely treated to the highest standards of handling and transportation, all the way from, dare I say it, a rock over on the Chatham Islands, all the way through to the handling onto the plains and up into Asia. So, sir, and that industry has only come about in the last, say, 15 to 20 years. So that's an industry which has flourished and is now the #1 product in our seafood industry, principally based on animal welfare and the handling and the catch methods that are applied to live lobster. And so I'm very pleased to say, sir, that the fishing industry has a very good relationship with MPI in terms of the protocols that are in place, or the codes of practice that are in place, for example, for live lobster. And I would imagine that the industry is looking forward to those codes of practice eventually being put into regulation. Again, sir, because the very fact that the product has to be live, that's where the value lies. That's where the value lies, and that's where the premium is paid to our exporters and ultimately The returns flow back to our fishing industry and fishers and families through the very fact that that fish is handled and is received and live to our customers. And so it doesn't really stop there, because there are opportunities abound for further live exports. And we know that there are small bits of trade that are happening around live power exports. We have significant live cockle, live shellfish exports which take place, sir. And all of these are enhancing the value that we are earning as a seafood industry, which ultimately benefits our country. And the one area of opportunity which is yet to be developed is in the live finfish export trade. And so if you go into any restaurant in North Asia, principally in Hong Kong, well, China, southern China especially, live fish is a very much highly prized dish in the Chinese market. And so if we are able to actually export live fish, that can turn a low-value species fish in New Zealand into a high-value fish, just by ensuring that we look after that fish, that animal, and make sure that it is delivered in good condition to the customer. And so it not only goes to the fact that the fish or the animal is alive, but it also goes further in terms of the appearance. And so our customers in North Asia, they like colourful fish. They like stripes, or they like a distinctive looking, highly prized fish that will be end up on their plate. And so, sir, there are opportunities that are bound for our seafood industry, and I know that they will be working with MPI to ensure that there are very appropriate regulations, ultimately regulations or codes of practice, that will be put in place to ensure that we can unlock the value. We can unlock the value to generate further foreign exchange earnings, which will ultimately benefit our nation, sir. So this is a very important piece of legislation. I did want to take issue with the Minister, though, sir, because I do believe he was being slightly disingenuous around his comments about how the government is doing so much to support animal welfare and enforcement. Because, sir, and the Minister mentioned how there had been extra frontline animal protection officers that had been appointed or put onto the job to ensure that there would be on-farm inspections and compliance and the like. But in fact, sir, that is not entirely correct, because a fair portion of the actual animal welfare inspectors that MPI does engage at the moment or employs are actually fisheries officers. They are those good men and women whose job is to actually detect and investigate fisheries breaches of our fisheries legislation. And yet, sir, those fisheries officers are now being shifted into roles which require them to be animal welfare inspectors as well, or biosecurity officers to investigate incursions that take place. And so, again, that is, the fact that this government is sort of fudging the numbers, indeed, in terms of what is actually going into the front line, is slightly disingenuous. And finally, sir, can I also say that the Minister has talked about that resources are going into animal inspections. Can I say, sir, that when it comes to fisheries, the fishing industry pays over $35 million each year in cost recovery compliance. And 10 million of those cost recovery levies that are imposed and paid by the fishing industry are supposed to go into compliance. And yet, unfortunately, sir, now we are finding that the fisheries officers are now having to be animal welfare inspectors as well. And so, you know, it's easy to take money from an industry, but the government needs to make sure that it's actually delivering services to that industry for those costs. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Sorry.